everyone, this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. If you're new here, that's my little intro that I do at the start of all my videos. Happy Lunar New Year, Ramadan Mubarak, and Happy Valentine's. This month we got a 3-in-1, and if you live somewhere as multicultural as I do, you're probably experiencing the festivities of all three, all at once. Just like this.
Ramadan tiba, Ramadan tiba, Ramadan tiba, marhaban ya Ramadan, marhaban ya Ramadan.
This year is the year of the horse, which means every online game and brand out of China right now is having a collaboration with My Little Pony, and I'm not complaining. I'm something of a horse girl myself, you see. I've taken riding lessons at odd phases of my life, but most importantly, I've sunk a cumulative 1,000 hours into various horse girl media, the likes of Barbie Horse Adventures, Star Stable, and more recently, The Wrench of Rivershine. I could yap all day about horses, and in fact, I have. Go watch my videos redesigning the ponies of G4 and G5 of My Little Pony if you're interested in that. I might even continue it, in fact, if my audience is so inclined. That's you, by the way. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know. But in this video, we are tackling horses in a franchise near and dear to my heart that I haven't talked nearly enough about. Or at all, really, which is a crime, and that's why we're doing it now, and that franchise is Pokemon!
And it's especially serendipitous that this video is coming out around the same time as the announcement for Gen 10, which is based on a Southeast Asian region, which I'm obviously super excited about. So if you guys want to see a video of me kind of going over my thoughts and maybe some cultural aspects referenced in the brief trailer that we got that you might not have got if you weren't Southeast Asian, then let me know in the comments below.
Now, obviously, you guys are aware of the evolutions and how Nintendo was able to make foxes in most of the different elements, and then things that are definitely not elements, but okay, we'll roll with it, I guess. So this makes it possible for you to create a team entirely made of evolutions and still have a pretty diverse type coverage, which means you'd be able to take on most gyms and trainers no matter what monster they're throwing at you, theoretically speaking. But did you know you could also do the same thing, but with a full horse team? Obviously, you have Rapidash as our poster child because this year is also the year of the fire horse, and you can't forget its distant cousin, the Galarian Rapidash, which covers fairy and psychic. You also get ground coverage with Mudsdale, electric coverage with Zebstrika, and if you don't mind me dipping into legendary territory, you also get Glastrier for ice, Keldeo for water and fighting, and Spectrier for ghost. And can I just gush about how pretty she is? Sure, it's not as good a coverage as the evolutions, and there is something to be said about most of them being legendary class Pokemon, but that's where I come in. See, I originally wanted to do an idea where I designed evolutions for the types they skipped, like rock and poison and ghost, but I never got around to doing it, so if you want to see that too, just let me know. But our focus right now is horse. See, while I love Spectrier, I am the kind of girly who, if I were to imagine myself as a Pokemon trainer and create my own Pokemon team, I would try to avoid legendaries because first off, they're pretty OP and they're not fun to play with from a roleplay perspective. And my Pokemon fantasy is to live a slow, cozy life in a small town, and that's a little hard to do if I'm being followed around by God himself. But also feasibly, I am not the kind of person to see a sacred deity that is revered by other Pokemon and people alike for as long as time has existed and think, I'm gonna catch that. I don't know, maybe that's just me. The point is, I want to create a horse Fakeamon that is more easily accessible to common folk like me. And because we've already got fire covered, why not do water? And because we are talking about quintessential Japanese media, I don't think there's a better sponsor for today's video than TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat is a fun monthly Japanese snack box packed with limited edition sweets, Kit Kats, chips, noodles, and Japan-only treats you won't usually find outside of Japan. Meanwhile, Sakuraco is a monthly artisan Japanese snack box featuring traditional seasonal sweets, Japanese tea, and an exclusive homeware item supporting local makers across Japan. Look at this adorable saucer that came with my Sakuraco box. Now I have the pink variant of a saucer I got from an earlier box. With TokyoTreat and Sakuraco, you get to experience both Japan's long-standing traditions and modern pop culture. It's the best of both worlds, especially if you want to learn more about Japanese culture but don't have the budget to travel there yourself. Because TokyoTreat and Sakuraco also come with cultural booklets featuring snack descriptions, allergen information, which for my fellow Muslims out there does include pork as well, and fun insights about Japanese culture. Every month, TokyoTreat and Sakuraco have a different theme. This month, both celebrate spring with lots of sakura-flavored treats because on top of being the Lunar New Year, Ramadan, and Valentine's, this month is also Hanami in Japan, which is a springtime tradition of observing the blooming sakura trees. It's truly a time to be alive. Right now, TokyoTreat is offering their Sakura Spring Snack Fest box filled with Sakura Kit Kats, cherry blossom cookies, and cherry mochi bites, while Sakuraco's Sakura in Bloom box has Sakura Castella, Sakura Mochi, and other Sakura-inspired treats that are perfect for sharing with friends and family or to enjoy by yourself, whichever box you choose. So whether you want a fun assortment of snacks for Lunar New Year, a sweet treat to break fast with, or to give to your Valentine, TokyoTreat and Sakuraco are perfect for all occasions. You can check out their Sakura offers in the link below or use my code to get $5 off your first box. Huge thanks to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring this video. For this design, the first thing I did was create a mock-up in my own style to visualize the ideas and vibes I had in mind before I can simplify it to fit Pokemon's monster designs better. I had a few different ideas for how the final design will look, but you can never really know which one will be the one until you put it on a canvas. Either way, I did know for certain that I wanted to create a design that was inspired by the Kelpie. In case you don't know what that is, a Kelpie is a malevolent, shape-shifting water spirit from Scottish folklore that inhabits lochs and rivers, often appearing as a horse to lure people to a watery death. It can also take human form, typically identified by seaweed in its hair. And I think that's the perfect inspo for a water horse Pokemon because it literally is a water horse. I've had this concept for a water horse Pokemon inspired by the Kelpie for a long time, so I already have a lot of ideas. Mythologically, the Kelpie appears as a white or gray horse, though some versions also describe it as a black horse, but it can also appear as a handsome man or woman. Obviously, we're not going for the latter, but I imagine it could be part of their Pokédex lore or moveset, similar to how Ninetales can also project illusions of attractive humans as a nod to the actual lore of kitsunes. Kelpies will lure unsuspecting victims, often children, by pretending to be a tame pony beside a river, coaxing them onto its back, making it impossible for them to escape by binding them to their own bodies with their sticky hide before diving into the water. Now, some versions end it at Kelpies just drowning humans on principle, but I've also seen some depicted as consuming their victims like a predator would. However, it is also possible to tame and control a Kelpie by getting a hold of its bridle, which I guess they just come with, which will allow whoever has it to command the Kelpie and any other Kelpie. According to Historic UK, a captive Kelpie is said to have the strength of at least 10 horses and the stamina of many more, and is highly prized. It is rumored that the McGregor clan have a Kelpie's bridle, passed down through the generations and said to have come from an ancestor who took it from a Kelpie near Loch Sloch. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. According to this archive as well, Kelpies can also use their magical powers to summon up a flood in order to sweep a traveler away to their doom. The sound of a Kelpie's tail entering the water is said to resemble that of thunder, and if you are passing by a river and hear an unearthly wailing or howling, take care. It could be a Kelpie warning of an approaching storm. I think that's exactly the kind of stuff that would be perfect for a Pokédex entry, and I'm honestly surprised that the Pokemon Company hasn't done so already, especially with the release of Sword and Shield, which is set in a UK-based region. So because of this malicious aspect of the Kelpie, this Fakemon of mine would fit perfectly as a water-dark dual type, which serves as a good counter to both Galarian Rapidash and regular Rapidash, and fills in the blank spots of our hypothetical all-horse team quite nicely. I initially had the idea of making a literal horse made of water with a flowing mane that is made of literal water flow like Rapidash's fiery mane, and primarily went for more of a blue color scheme to better convey this. But I was really partial to the gray horse design as well, which fits more in line with the Kelpie's lore, because Kelpies are supposed to be beautiful horses that would attract people to approach it unassumingly. I decided to reference Andalusian horses, which are known for their beauty, grace, and, in my personal opinion, gray dappled coat. I don't know, they always just look super iconic like this. Another thing I had trouble deciding on was whether I wanted the final Kelpie Fakemon to have 4 legs and a fin tail like Vaporeon, or if I wanted to do more of a mermaid setup. In the end, I couldn't really decide, so I ended up going with both, which you will see in a bit. And these are my concepts that we will now be translating to Pokemon's art style. Now, pretty much all the horse and horse-like Pokemon currently in the Pokemon database are 2-stage evolutions if they evolve at all. So we're gonna follow that same rule for our Fakemon as well. So let's design the first stage of its evolution. For this form, I immediately thought of seahorses because I think it's the perfect pre-evolution phase for something that is essentially a horse mermaid, being that real seahorses are literally animals with horse-like heads and a tail for swimming. Now, I know seahorses have already been done for a Pokemon concept with the Horsea line of Seadra and Kingdra, but they chose to lean more in the Sea Dragon direction as opposed to Water Horse like we're doing here. I will still be using Horsea as a reference though, if only to help me imitate the Pokemon style better, and adding more references that I think fit the vibe I'm going for, like Dratini, and also this really cute ribbon eel design from Infinity Nikki.
And speaking of imitating Pokemon's art style, I found that the part I struggled with the most was definitely the line art, because I personally prefer thick, dynamic line art that has different line weight depending on where it falls on the form, whereas Pokemon's art style has a very consistent weight all throughout, which for me is something really hard to replicate because I am used to putting a bit of variation in my pen pressures. So in order to mitigate this, I actually had to go around using the actual line tool on Clip Studio Paint. It got the job done, but I will say I didn't have as much fun with it as I would have if I had hand-drawn the lines. The idea for the first stage evolution is that it's meant to fit right in among the cute baby Pokemon genre that is approachable and would make for a marketable plushie because Nintendo has priorities, obviously. While designing the stage, I was reminded of the sea ponies from Gen 3 of My Little Pony. I don't know if you are old enough or into horses enough to have seen it, but this is what they look like, and I think about them frequently. Honestly, I think the key in making them cute are in the eyes. I personally find that Pokemon with the maximal cute factor often have black bead-like eyes that are super reflective instead of something super big and shiny. So that's what I decided to do with my little sea pony here. To give it a more horse-like appearance while still keeping it aquatic, I thought it would be fun to have its fins replicate the identifiable shape of horse ears and mane while still being fins. But I think the part that I was most proud of was creating the illusion of front legs using its side fins as foreshadowing for its next evolution stage. So, for the colors, I initially went with the dappled gray coloration I did in the draft design, and to be honest, it was looking really cute. I definitely have a soft spot for gray horses, but I had another idea I wanted to try. So I made a second variation with a dark coat this time. That's because I remembered that gray horses aren't actually born gray, but rather they're born with a dark base coat, either black, chestnut, or bay, And if they carry the gray gene, they'll grow in white fur as they get older until they're either this cute salt and pepper color or completely white. It's also a nice nod to some versions of the Kelpie, which describe them as black horses. That way we get the best of both worlds. And honestly, the dappling really brought the design together. It reminded me of leopard seal spots and also just looks like it has little bubbles bubbling up inside of it. At this stage, I think this Fakemon would be a mono water type, not yet developing the dark traits of its successor yet. I decided to call this first stage evolution Seafoal, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's a play on sea foam, but replacing foam with foal, which is a baby horse. So here is a little Pokédex entry I made for Seafoal. Seafoal, the sea pony Pokemon. This shy and timid Pokemon spends most of its life hiding in tall kelp forests, which serve as its main source of nutrition, as well as to protect itself from predators. Despite its small size, it is extremely fast and agile, allowing it to easily escape capture. It is also known to use camouflage and is rarely seen by humans. Mechanics-wise, I think you would only be able to encounter Seafoal while surfing in saltwater areas with a bigger encounter chance if you dive. For its ability, it would probably have either Run Away or Swift Swim, with a custom hidden ability called Camouflage, which lowers the opponent's accuracy, making it more likely for an attack to miss. Let me know what you think of Seafoal and if you'd have it on your team. Over here, I've just transferred over the mermaid design I did originally while cartoonifying it a bit more to fit the Pokemon aesthetic. I have the two Rapidash variants as my references, and I'm glad to announce that I didn't have to change that much aside from making the mane more compact and changing up the eye shape a little. I initially was dead set on keeping my Kelpie Fakemon as only a mermaid-like horse creature, but I also wanted to see how the four-hooved version would look, so I quickly decided to doodle that in too. For this version, I wanted this Fakemon to be a fully realized horse with four hooves with a little something extra, which you'll see in a bit. Because it's finally out of the water, I decided to reuse my other idea of it having a water mane and tail, making the tail resemble a waterfall and maintaining the same theme of flowing water throughout. I wanted to do a more gloopy, blobby look at first, but I didn't want to reheat too much of Rapidash's nachos, so instead I went for a straight, gravity-compliant look for contrast. Now, for that something extra I mentioned, I decided to give this landform water wings inspired by Lapis Lazuli from Steven Universe. And like Lapis, these wings aren't always there. I'm just illustrating them in so you know that they can be there. So they're not like an alicorn with full-time wings and horn, but more like a unicorn that can conjure water wings for itself sometimes. Canonically, I don't think they would be able to truly take flight with these wings because that would make it a bit OP, but it would be able to jump higher into the air and glide like flying fish do. In the end, I decided to change the tail back into a fin because I think it resembles the tufted tail that unicorns are classically depicted with more closely, and because I think it makes the overall pose more dynamic. Okay, let's get to coloring. I pretty much followed the plan I had originally for my dappled gray, but it looked a bit too ordinary. Pokemon is all about fun, bright, flashy colors, so keeping this more realistic coloration doesn't really fit in with the other mons, or at the very least, doesn't really help it stand out. So I went for a more fantastical color scheme, and I thought about doing blue, obviously, to help it be identified more easily among the other water types, but it ended up looking more like an ice type instead. I definitely think water types tend to have more punchy, deep blue, whereas ice types are definitely more light and pastel. And our Pokemon design here definitely calls for more pastel. And typically, water types with lighter coloration are often also dual water ice types, and we are doing a water dark type.
But then I stumbled upon that Miku Blue, or Teal, as every Vocaloid fanfiction would insist on back in the day, and it just felt right. I think it harkens back to the kelp forest environment that every young sea foal would have spent its early life. It also makes me think of mires and locks, murky waters hiding untold horrors, and I just knew that this was the look. I think it also helps it blend in with the Fae theme of most Galarian Pokemon, and I love it. For the name of this evolution, I decided on Aquastrian, which is a combination of aqua and equestrian, which is a clever pun if I do say so myself. And for its regular sea-dwelling form, and I also decided to add a horn to my design to make it even more mythical, and as a reference to old stories of sea unicorns, where sailors would claim to see and bring back these pearly horns emerging from the sea during their voyages, not knowing they were actually narwhals. And of course, the all-important Kelpie brittle, which is often made from silver, which I add at the very end. Fun fact about Kelpies is that traditionally, Kelpies in their human form are male, with only a few stories of them being female. There is a folk tale from the island of Barra in Scotland, which tells of a lonely Kelpie that transforms itself into a handsome young man to woo a pretty young girl it was determined to take for its wife. But the girl recognizes the young man as a Kelpie and removes his silver necklace, or his brittle, while he sleeps. The Kelpie immediately reverts to its equine form, and the girl takes it home to her father's farm, where it is put to work for a year. At the end of that time, the girl rides the Kelpie to consult a wise man, who tells her to return the silver necklace. The wise man then asks the Kelpie, once again transformed into the handsome young man the girl had first met, whether, if given the choice, it would choose to be a Kelpie or a mortal. The Kelpie in turn asks the girl whether, if he were a man, she would agree to be his wife. She confirms that she would, after which the Kelpie chooses to become a mortal man and the pair are married. It's kind of a gender-bent Little Mermaid story, which I think is super cute. But because of this, I decided that the Equestrian evolution line would be one of the Pokemon that have a 1:7 female to male ratio, or a rate of 87.5% male and 12.5% female. The reasoning for this is also part of the lore, because only seafoals that are brave enough to leave its kelp forest home are able to evolve into equestrians, and the males are more likely to go out and take that risk than the females. I also think that, in line with the narwhals they were inspired by, they were originally hunted by humans for their pearl horns, which were sold for a high price, causing them to develop a deep grudge towards humans and will enact their vengeance by luring them into their watery grave. But on the lighter side, once humans learn to earn the equestrians' trust and tame them, I can also see them being used to teach people to ride horseback for the first time because of their sticky hide, which makes it easier for beginners to stay on and maintain correct sitting and leg position. They're probably also great for things like mounted archery for the same reason, because you don't have to worry about your lower half and just focus on your upper half. And because of this, I think if these Pokemon were canon in the world, they'd definitely be used for some sort of sports tournament. Not necessarily just battle tournaments, but something like a pentathlon given their versatility. So you could hypothetically do a water stage with diving and surfing, a race on land with mounted archery and cross-country, and maybe even an aerial level to show off acrobatics. So I can also imagine breeders keeping them like those really expensive competition horses. And with that said, here is the Pokédex entry for Equestrian. Equestrian, the water horse Pokemon. Because humans previously hunted it for its horn, it holds a deep grudge and will lure unsuspecting victims onto its back to drown them. It will only listen to trainers brave enough to take its brittle, but once tamed, it is a deeply loyal and obedient Pokemon. Equestrian would be a rare Pokemon that you can only acquire by evolving a Seafoal, possibly at level 27 like Zepstrika. And you can get it to switch forms by either fighting in water terrain or rainy weather. And unlike most Pokemon, it would be able to learn the HM moves Surf, Dive, and Waterfall as it levels up. For its ability, I'm thinking it'll have Sticky Hold or Damp with the hidden ability Water Absorb. And that's it for my 2 Horse Pokémon designs, or 3 if you want to count the alternate forms. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, let me know if you think I have potential being a monster designer for the Pokemon Company, or alternatively, some obscure indie horse game. Anyway, that's all from me. If you made it this far, thanks for hanging out in my channel for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. Big shout out to my lovely sea bunnies on Patreon. If you want to become a sea bunny and get extra perks like a free commission from me, join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art or chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want more of my stories, check out my Wild Bird series here on YouTube because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!
Together is never quite easy.